All right. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Sean Darrington, Senior Director of Product Management here at StorageCraft. Wanted to share a few things. First of all, this is actually my sixth Spice World event. Started back in Exablocks before StorageCraft acquired Exablocks in 2017. So I used to be the green guy in the on the boards and everything. I still participate a little bit, but we have others that are doing that more intensely now. But before we get going, I want to do a quick quiz, and it's just a single answer. And I'm going to show an image, and whoever shouts out what that is will get this StorageCraft Yeti, okay? So you don't have to raise your hands, just shout it out as loud, and then you're going to help me who identifies it first. Salmon, no? That is homemade smoked bacon. Nobody gets the bacon. This is Spice World. Come on, guys. Thought everybody would know bacon right off the bat. All right, well, so I didn't stop at bacon. I actually started doing 2 briskets. This is on the egg. These are 20 pounds of briskets, which turned out great. You can see the cover there. This was a few years ago. It was a new egg. However, I've got now a new setup. On the right, you can see the top is now broken in a lot more after a bunch of cooks. That's 20 pounds of pork shoulder on the bottom and 10 pounds of brisket on the top. So it was a good afternoon of hosting everybody over for a barbecue. But given Spice World and Austin, I thought I'd share a little bit about bacon and pulled pork and brisket. So on with this. So I guess we'll have to see. I'll think of another question, and we'll give this away at another point during the presentation. But I just want to quickly touch on some of the challenges. So here at StorageCraft, what we've done is we've really built out a portfolio of products to solve different challenges that we oftentimes hear you guys are facing in terms of, obviously, unstructured data growth continues to be one of the things that people have a problem with. They don't know how fast it's going to go. They don't know when it's going to grow, when they're going to need to add more storage, and how they're going to protect it. But then you also have to protect all of the applications running in a virtual environment, or even physical servers and desktops, right? And so how do you actually handle that, and how do you actually balance the budgets that you have to solve those problems with the cost of downtime for your organization, right? And then there's also the cost of downtime for just application failures, server failures, et cetera. But then there's also management complexity and the cost of recovering in the event of ransomware, which sometimes can be done from a backup, a traditional backup. But a lot of times the ransomware has to be recovered in a different way where you can have think about solving that problem a little bit differently. But then also making sure that management doesn't think of business continuity as an afterthought. As soon as you do have an incident, then they're oftentimes willing to fund a project, right? How do you communicate that ahead of time and get that funded so that when you do have an incident, you're able to recover from that, and it's not sorry, I can't do that, now I've got to go figure out how to do it, right? So that's what we've been focused here at StorageCraft over the last 13 years. And the first is we focus and have a scale-out storage solution called OneSafe. And this is a converged solution that incorporates our scale-out storage back from Exablocks. This used to be branded OneBlocks, but last year we actually incorporated now the full data protection capabilities for virtual servers or physical servers in the same cluster. And so now OneSafe can be used for storing your unstructured data. We have an all-flash offering for VMware, but also can be a backup recovery target for Veeam or Commvault or NetBackup or others. But you can also take advantage of our own converged data protection capabilities in the same cluster. So you can use it in a variety of ways based upon which challenge you're trying to solve first, and you can simply just add on those capabilities over time to the same cluster, or you can obviously start with everything from the beginning. Now, depending upon the size of your organization, you may not have a 10 to 50 to hundreds of terabyte problem for the OneSafe scale-out storage solution. We have an option to now include the same SLA-based data protection policies and capabilities for physical and virtual servers in a software-only deployment model called ShadowSafe. You can think of this as a follow-on to what we've been offering for Shadow Protect. It's a re-architected way to now manage data protection for your applications on a policy basis. So you can back up locally, you can replicate off-site, and in both cases, depending upon your deployment model of OneSafe and or ShadowSafe, you have the option to actually replicate that to StorageCraft's cloud services. And this now offers you the ability to do full DR as a service, where you can recover any application, physical or virtual, that you're protecting on premises, but you're recovering that in our cloud. And now you have network application services and storage that's all running in our cloud and providing those application services back to your users in your own location. So when we've focused on OneSafe and the converged offering, this is not your typical storage solution. So we are not a typical RAID-based block store with the Dell EMCs, et cetera, where you have LUNs, volumes, and you're allocating those to servers on a per share basis, right? Or per LUN basis, depending on how you carve it out. What we've done over the years, and this is where StorageCraft's intellectual property is OneSafe is built on a distributed object store. And this object store is unique because now when you think about, I've got to carve up a 2 terabyte volume and assign it to a server, all that goes away. There's no need for thin provisioning at all. Now we just think about a pool of storage. And that pool of storage can be a handful of terabytes or it could be up to a petabyte, right? And because we're an object store, we have the ability to have NFS or SMB services delivered to their applications. So we look like network attached storage. So you can just attach this as a backup target to your Veeam server, attach all of your home directories, put all of your unstructured data there, integrate back to the directory, and your users just map that network drive to the cluster. But you don't have to worry about any LUN or volume size. You just think about a pool of storage. And as you have multiple applications accessing those file services and that pool of storage, the same pool of storage can be used to deliver data protection services. So now you can back up your tens of VMs or hundreds of VMs or physical servers to the same cluster, and they all have equal access to the storage. And this is unique because an object store typically requires RESTful APIs, right? But this, we look like and have all the ease of administration of scale-out network-attached storage, but you have all the advantages of an object store underneath the covers. Inline deduplication, compression, encryption, immutable and continuous snapshots for protection against ransomware. And this is something that a lot of the benefits are underneath the covers, and so you don't have to worry about the complexity of how do I add more storage to my cluster? Well, you simply just add another node to the cluster and click join, and you're done, right? Most of the tasks that you do require no administration in terms of it just happens automatically, all right? There's no downtime to grow or expand the cluster. So depending upon your needs, whether you're starting with a scale-out storage problem and or data protection, there are different models that you can start with depending upon if you have a 20 terabyte problem or if you have a 300 terabyte problem. Each of these, on the far left, you can see the 4412 model. That you can put 8, 10, 12 terabyte drives in that same 12 bay 2U form factor. And so you have up to 144 terabytes in a single node. But you can scale out and add multiple nodes from the beginning or over time, and that pool of storage just increases. The middle model, that's set 4417, you can have up to 204 terabytes. And on the far right, that's our all-flash array. Right? And so now, depending upon your performance needs and obviously the costs associated with that, you can deploy the correct storage to satisfy those application needs. And the same software that I've been talking about, and we'll go into more detail in a little bit, the same software runs across all three models. The only question is how much capacity and how fast is it going to run. Right? So everything is administered the same way. So now, that's just a little bit on the OneSafe converged capabilities for either storage and or data protection. But not everybody needs storage and data protection. Sometimes people just need to protect applications. They've got remote offices, branch offices. So there are different models and capabilities based upon the size of your organization, or if you're a managed service provider and you're managing 20 of your customers, they may each have different needs. And so if you look at this portfolio of our offerings, from the far bottom, that's the OneSafe Solo 300. We just announced this at VM, just prior to VMworld, and this will be available in Q4. This is the OneSafe Solo. So this has the same SLA-based data protection that I was talking about, where you can protect VMs and replicate to the cloud. This allows you to simply drop it into your network, no additional server or software to install. You can back up your VMs to this. This is a gateway to StorageCraft's cloud. So now you have full DR as a service capability, whether it's 4 VMs or physical servers or 10, it doesn't matter. There's no limit. This is just a gateway for backing up on-premises applications into our cloud. Now the other thing with this is you can attach a USB storage device to this, and you can have a handful of terabytes to this if you want to combine that with local protection and replicating to our cloud. Okay? So this is on the low end of the market there on the bottom left. As you go up, the 3000 is going to be similar to our OneSafe scale-out storage I just talked about, but that's going to be a different price point as well as lower capacity. Right? That's not available yet. That'll be available next year. And then ShadowSafe is the software-only deployment model, where you have the data protection capabilities for tens of servers or hundreds of VMs, it doesn't matter, and you have the option to back up locally and protect those applications locally, or replicate to our cloud. And then we talked about the OneSafe models as you go up and to the right in terms of price, performance, and capacity. Okay? So StorageCraft is not new to the data protection space, right? We've been in the business for over 13 years, and many of you know us from the Shadow Protect and Image Manager, et cetera. Last year, we announced OneSafe and ShadowSafe. This really changes how StorageCraft can protect applications, particularly in a virtual environment, where now we have the ability to protect VMs and VMware and Hyper-V in an agent or agentless model, depending upon the hypervisor. So you have that decision about if it's a physical server, you can continue to use our agents. With Hyper-V, you can use agents for now. Agentless is coming. With VMware, you have the option to do agentless protection, right? This is also something that allows you to do independent restores. So depending on what you're protecting, you can recover to dissimilar hardware. So think about like bare metal restore. Additionally, you can resume and recover a VM and begin booting that in under a second. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment with virtual boot. But this is something that changes how you can protect applications locally, but then also how you can replicate that into the cloud. So depending upon your policies, you can begin to think about managing your storage in different ways. So depending upon which problems, again, coming back to the beginning, which problems you're trying to solve and when, you can start with the storage problem of OneSafe, right? Get all those VMs off of VMware, free up that SAN-based storage, put those onto the OneSafe cluster. Now all that unstructured data is on the cluster, the OneSafe cluster, and users are accessing it directly. Right? There's no size limit to a map network drive. You're not going to run out of drive letters. You just create a couple shares, and you can support thousands of concurrent users if you want to. But because all that unstructured data is on OneSafe, it's being protected with our immutable and continuous snapshots. So now you no longer have to back up the 10 to 20 to 30 terabytes of unstructured data you have. You can replicate that to another OneSafe cluster in your colo for offsite protection, and now you don't have to actually back that up in the traditional sense. If you're also looking at the data protection piece, the same cluster can be used for both, right? So depending upon your performance needs, you can have an all-flash supporting VMware, right? Up to about 25,000 IOPS per second for 4K block sizes. But now with our inline deduplication and compression, we're satisfying the primary storage for VMware, but also you can back up to the same all-flash cluster and replicate that to another OneSafe cluster. So the deployment models are very flexible in terms of how you want to protect your applications on premises, how you want to protect that unstructured data against ransomware on premises, and replicating that to either another OneSafe in your colo or a second location, or if you want to replicate and migrate the backups on a per policy basis into StorageCraft's cloud for full DR as a service. Now, additionally, you can go to like Amazon or S3 as a storage target for your backups, but that's just getting the storage up there. You would then need to worry about spinning up the VMs and the AMIs in Amazon to actually run the applications in the cloud, but you can get the backups into S3 if you wanted to. Or, as I mentioned, StorageCraft, we have the opportunity to have full application networking services where you're actually running the VMs in our cloud, okay? So the way that we've changed things a bit, we talked about the unstructured data, the converged OneSafe capabilities, but everything is managed through one system, whether that be ShadowSafe or OneSafe or a combination of both, depending upon your deployment model. One system is our cloud-based management service. So depending upon the deployment model, you can either use the hosted one system or you can deploy one system as a VM in your own data center. And from there, you can manage all of your storage anywhere it's located. Okay? You can also begin to take advantage of managing your data protection policies through one system and just setting up, in a few clicks, setting up your policies and then being able to protect a few VMs or a large subset of the VMs, depending on how you want to apply those policies. Additionally, because one system is cloud-based, StorageCraft, our support team has insights into what all the OneSafe deployments are worldwide. So we know the state of every drive and power supply of all of OneSafes deployed throughout the world. That also allows us to do predictive analysis and predictive communication about something that we're seeing in your environment in terms of the software version, in terms of a hard drive about to fail. You'll get pre-fail notifications. We see those. We can notify you. You can easily remedy the problem. This also helps with our support to be able to remotely access OneSafe through one system to provide a quick diagnostics and remedy to any issues you may have. The other thing that you'll see, and we've got a demo obviously over our booth in the corner right as you walk in the doors, is we can show you one system dramatically changes how you administer things. So you can do, there's no need to use command line is the short answer, right? You have everything through point and click. Setting up remote replication is done in literally 3 mouse clicks. Setting up a policy to protect a few VMs or hundreds of VMs is about 14 mouse clicks. It's very simple to do. If you're going to promote a replicated share to be read-write from as your DR target, that's also done in 3 mouse clicks. These are things that change and give you back more time. One of the things that we've focused on is making this simple yet powerful to do the things you need to do on a daily basis. This is a few screenshots for the data protection policies. You can see on the left-hand side, those are the fields, if you will, that you determine how you want to protect your VMs or physical servers. How many snapshots do you want to take? If it's a virtual server, how many 15-minute snapshots, dailies, hourly, and how long would you like to keep them? And you have the option of where do you want to send them? Do you want to send them to a local storage, replicate to another OneSafe cluster, replicate into the cloud? And now as a summary, you see in the kind of the top right, your policies are very easily identifiable. So you don't have to remember what the high policy is. You see at a glance in one system, what is high policy? What are your recovery points for those applications? And which VMs or physical servers are protected with that policy? You can see in just a couple of clicks. Additionally, there's reporting in terms of when are you going to run out of capacity planning, right? So what's that trajectory look like based upon the data that's being backed up over time? When are you going to need to add more storage preemptively? And with the scale-out capabilities that we have, there's no downtime involved. You don't reconfigure any of your backups. The backups just see more storage that's available to them as you add more nodes to the cluster. If you're using ShadowSafe with third-party storage, you can absolutely do that as well. Right? You can then manage that storage the way you have been before. If you want to add another disk tray or add another target, you can do that all through one system. It's not as seamless as if you're using OneSafe as the backup recovery target for that converged capabilities, but it's definitely possible. The other thing that we've done is we've really simplified, I shouldn't say simplified, we've improved the way that you can recover your applications, right? So now if you go in and you can do a system level recovery or full VM recovery with virtual boot, this again is done in a couple of mouse clicks. You select which VM you want to recover and where that recovery point is from. Is it the one that's on premises? Is it in our cloud? Is it at the remote location? Once you determine what that recovery point is, now you can begin to boot that VM in less than a second. From there, with our patented technology that we have, the recovered VM thinks it's accessing the primary storage. Okay? But in reality, we're redirecting that I/O and recovering the data from OneSafe in real time. As the application needs it, we're giving it to the VM and copying it to your primary SAN storage. And so now as the application is running, you're not doing and waiting for a recovery to complete, you're doing a recovery in real time. And then after that period of time, if it's idle, we'll recover everything else that needs to be. But eventually, that VM is recovered in totality. And now the VM just continues to think it's accessing the primary storage. There's no additional step of storage remotion during that recovery process. Okay? Additionally, to begin that recovery process, you don't have to set up a VM first and then recover it. You literally, through one system, recover that VM through virtual boot, and we will create that VM and provision everything needed, right? Virtual CPU, networking, et cetera. And then you're done and you're off and running. Now, this same technology is used for not only recovering VMs on premises, but I mentioned you can also recover it in our cloud. But this is a way to fail back from our cloud back into your data center, right? So one of the big things is if you're running in the cloud, how are you going to get multiple terabytes of a VM back down onto your premises and have that minimize the amount of time you have to do that recovery point, right? That recovery time, excuse me. So this virtual boot also works in the reverse order for fail back, whether it be offsite or from our cloud back into your data center, okay? Now the other thing that we've focused on is I've talked a lot about ease of management and simplicity. A lot of the things that we do are to give you time back in your day. But we also try to minimize the costs that you have to expend for solutions like this. So one of the things we've done is OneSafe, we went with the Evaluator Group, which is similar to the Gartner Group. They're an industry analyst firm. And they looked at a number of different solutions on the market. They looked at OneSafe, the converged capabilities that we have, as well as another scale-out data protection provider, and then traditional backup recovery with traditional deduplication storage, purpose-built backup appliance. And they looked at the costs of those three solutions over 3 and 5 years. And what they found actually, was that we were significantly less expensive over 5 years, both from the initial acquisition cost, but also FTE, environmental, in terms of rack space, power, cooling, et cetera. So we're about half as expensive as the traditional, another scale-out data protection provider, and about a third as expensive as the traditional backup software with a purpose-built backup appliance as that target. So this is something that you can, depending on where you need, if you have a handful of terabytes or if you have hundreds of terabytes, the solution scales very easily with that. But you can also see in terms of the total cost over that period of time that it's less than the competition. Now, these numbers here, and if you can read it, it's like $1.2 million. This is actually for beginning at 600 terabytes and growing at 20% per year. I know that's not everybody here, but this is just an example. And you can customize the tool. If you're interested, we can customize a tool for exactly the capacity that you have with your different growth rates, right? So this is something that is something to keep in mind, because a lot of opportunities, most people think they can't afford this. What we've been doing at StorageCraft is actually bringing a lot of the enterprise features, and we've been doing this for years, bringing a lot of the enterprise features that most people cannot afford, but everybody wants, and making it available to organizations of your size. Right? Now, the last thing I wanted to spend a little bit of time on is the protection against ransomware. And even just in the last 7 hours since the show has been open, yesterday and today, we've had 7, 8 people come up and say, StorageCraft has helped us recover from ransomware. And those are the stories we'd like to hear. What we're seeing and hearing more and more is that people use backup recovery software to recover from ransomware, right? That's definitely one way to do it. You're going back to the last backup. You're not going back to the last 90 seconds, right? So particularly with unstructured data, where you have users, their PC's infected, they encrypt the entire map network drive, or then they go out and get other PCs. All that unstructured data, you can absolutely back that up. And chances that you'll be able to recover that are pretty good, particularly with our software. But ransomware can also encrypt backup files, right? It can also delete backup files and lay dormant for weeks, right? We had a customer in Hong Kong that the ransomware lay dormant for 3 weeks, which was longer than the expiration, fortunately, of their backups, but not of their snapshots. And so their backups had been going for 3 weeks, and everything was being encrypted, right? So they couldn't go back to their backup files anymore because everything from 3 weeks to today was encrypted. However, they had snapshots enabled on those backup files for a month. And they were able to go back to the immutable snapshots of that and get all their data back. There's also a hotel in New York, major hotel, that had Nimble storage they were just moving to VDI. So they had Nimble for their primary storage, Veeam for their backups, and they had us as the backup target for Veeam and their unstructured data. They were infected with ransomware. Nimble snapshots couldn't get anything back. All the VBKs were corrupt and encrypted, and they were able to get everything back through, at that point, OneBlock's snapshots. So the reason I mention this is that, unfortunately, ransomware is something that everybody has to be concerned about because they're targeting businesses more and more every year, and you really have to be in a scenario of when are you going to recover from a ransomware infection, not if. Right? And so when you're looking at this, and you're looking at the combination of typical applications with unstructured data, this is one of the ways that OneSafe can provide you that ability to recover from ransomware for an individual file, folder, or share, and everything is deduplicated, it's compressed, you have the option for encryption at rest, you have the option to replicate that to another site, so you have the off-site protection as well, and on a per-share basis, you can decide how long you want those snapshots, right? So for general purpose map network drives, maybe it's 3 months, right? If you're a healthcare organization for PACS, it might be 7 years. It might be forever. But on some shares, it might be just a week, right? You want to have your backups going to OneSafe, keep your backups and there, snapshots for 2 weeks, right? So on a per share basis, you can decide how you want to protect that data. But again, you're not worrying about LUNs or volumes. It's just a pool of storage. And that cluster can be used for multiple purposes based upon which challenges you're trying to solve and when. So, a little bit of an overview of StorageCraft. That's a lot in 20 minutes. I didn't do anything online. I just kept it for screenshots, but we can do live demos over there. So, since we have some new people here, so I'll give everybody one more chance. If you identify what this image is, just holler and say what it is, and you'll win this StorageCraft Yeti, okay? 1 second. Anybody recognize it? I'm sorry? Brisket? No, it's not brisket. It is smoked meat, though. What? Pork shoulder? No.
Bacon.
Salmon was said. Nope. Who said bacon? We hear the beginning. You still get the Storage Craft mug, right?
He said it right here.
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear that. I'll see if I can get you another mug. Okay. All right. Any questions I can answer for you before? And then obviously we can have time over at the booth as well. We're right around the corner, just as you come in the main entrance doors. No questions? There's got to be one. Okay. Well, great. Well, thank you, everybody, and we'll be over there to answer any more questions. Thanks.